Well, good morning. Welcome to what's known as, or a lot of people refer to as, my second home, Frensham Great Pond. It's run by Farnham Angling Society. It's a 60-acre lake, really shallow, beautiful surroundings. You've got starlings roosting and then flying out in the mornings from the rushes, mist all over the lake, and tench rolling out there. So I've come here today, and sorry if you thought it was going to be a tench video. It's not. It's just going to go back to the float fishing again from when I fished the pole float on the estate lake. It's just kind of the second one on, and I'm going to fish the wag and mag now. It's a method that works for the tench here, but this year we've had an explosion of small fish, small rudd, small perch. We've even seen some small carp and some small tench, so things are looking really good for the future. But I don't think we're going to see loads and loads of tench, because I'm going to start off on the maggot. I think I'm going to get bitted out by small rudd. I had a couple of 2-pound perch on the worm kebab last week, so I've got a few worms. I might try to wheedle out one of those, and hopefully, if the small fish do become problematic, I've got some sweet corn that obviously is a superb bait. Many just forget about it now, but it catches everything. It's a bait that we use here quite a bit, catches loads of tench, and hopefully we're going to have a really enjoyable morning's fishing. I've actually put some ground bait out there. Mixing your ground bait is really important. I'll run through that in a minute. I've got 6 balls out there already, so let's show you how to mix the ground bait up. We'll get plumbed up, and then we'll start catching some fish and hopefully have a really enjoyable day. Okay, let's talk about mixing ground bait. It's really simple to get it done right, and it's really simple to get it wrong. I'm using Dynamite Haze Robin Red method mix. Although I'm not using the method at Frensham on float fishing, this mix really balls in well, as long as you, again, as I said, mix it correctly. So when I get to the lake, I'm doing it in the garden today just because I've got a stream in the back garden. I just put half a bag into a bucket. Don't put the whole bag in, because if you put too much water in and it's too stodgy, it's very difficult to get that back and you might have to throw it away. As I say, I'm using water from a stream at the bottom of my garden. You can use the water butt for your garden, which collects the rainwater, or you can use tap water, not tap water, you can use bottled water. Do not use tap water because it's got chemicals in it. And what you want to do is just add the water just on a little and often basis. You don't want to mix and get it too damp. Just mix it up, add your water, and then what you will find is you will get quite quickly a consistency that balls together and holds there. Now, if you throw this into your swim, it's going to do more damage than good, because what that's going to do is that's going to break up as it goes down. If you've got any undertow or drift, it's just going to be up in the water suspended, and it's just going to move all about your swim, and then it's just going to scatter the fish. And that is because the particles haven't absorbed the moisture. So when you get to your swim, first thing I do is tip some ground bait into a bucket, add some water, and get it to a consistency that you can ball together, and then leave it for about 10 minutes, maybe not quite as long, but if you can leave it 10 minutes, great. And what you will find, and this is one I did earlier, is you'll find it dries right out. It's very difficult to kind of ball up because it is so much drier. So when it gets to that stage, get your water again, add it little and often. As I say, less is more. Take your time, mix that water in there all the way through, and then what you will do is you'll end up again back to a consistency that easily balls up. Now, you can throw that in your swim, but what you find, as you can see, you got loads of lumps in there, and it's great. The best way to get those out is just use one of these, a nice fine sieve. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, lumpy ground bait, get that, tip it onto a sieve, and then just take your time, just work that through the sieve, getting all those lumps out. You might have to add a bit of water 2 or 3 times. Twice is normally enough, but if you find it's too dry, just add a little bit more. Work it through. As you can see, it all goes through that sieve. All the lumps have now gone, and what you are left with is a really nice fine consistency. And what you will find is it takes, I'm not even putting any pressure on that, is it balls up really nice. Now that is good to be balled into your swim, and what that will do, it will go all the way to the bottom without breaking up, and then it'll break up into a lovely fine consistency right where you're float fishing, and drag those fish into your swim and get them feeding. It'll also go into your method mould. You push your mould in, and when you cast out, it will be of the right consistency to lay on your feeder, break down slowly, instead of when you cast out scattering all over the place. So very, very simple. Takes about 20 minutes, but you can do, you mix your ground bait up while you're setting up, and if it does dry out during the day and you think, oh, it needs a bit of water, I wouldn't recommend starting tipping water back in, because it is so easy to overdo it. Get one of these, add some water, and a couple of little sprays of that will dampen it right down into that lovely consistency, which can be balled up and put in your swim. But I might be silhouetted out on the perfect sunrise in the background, but I just wanted to show you why I fish this place, and I have done since I was a youngster. I think I probably started fishing here when I was about 20. I'm 57 I think now, and it is just a magical place. You can fish the float, the feeder, it's full of tench. There's some big rudd here, not easy, not as easy as some people make out, and it's just a fantastic place to be. I've actually plumbed up this morning, one of the first jobs I do, and that is very, very important. Probably one of the most important parts of float fishing, whether you're fishing paste off the rod tip under a pole float like I was doing in the last video, or fishing the Waggler. And today I want to be fishing dead depth, just touching bottom. And what I mean by that is the complete depth from the surface to the bottom. I don't want to be fishing 2 inches over depth, laying on the bottom, or fishing off bottom. I just want that bait just coming to rest on the bottom. Tench bites can be so finicky, just little lifts, little drops, and what I would say is strike at anything. If you think, did it, was it, and you didn't strike, you probably missed a bite there. So yeah, take time plummeting. And how I do that is I get my float and I just lock it with 2 shot next to the float, so all the shot is where the float is when I'm waggler fishing, and I get quite a lot of tips showing, and then I add sort of like an AA shot or swan shot, and I bite that onto the hook, and then I cast that out, and as you can imagine, the lead weight or the shot goes down, it hits bottom, and then it takes a bit of time for that float to come up vertical and show. So don't just cast out and say, oh, the float's gone, because it will do. The shot will drag the float under and then the float will slowly come up. So take your time, cast out, edge it back. I might take a dozen casts to get the depth correct. And yeah, just very, very important. You've got to make sure that you know the depth you're fishing. I've just gone out on the maggot over the ground bait, and amazingly, I'm not getting bites, which isn't a bad thing, because if I can get away with it and I can fish the maggot and catch tench, that was a bite. Only a small fish, but it's a start. And as expected, it's a rudd. I'd like to get a few bigger than that. Oh, that one come off. Little hooks, lose a few. So going double red. Cast out, feather it down, sink your line. Frencham's quite difficult because sometimes you get undertow and your float actually comes towards you, and it's amazing how quick it does. And you strike and you've got line. Yeah, as I thought, there's going to be a lot of small fish out here, so maggot sucked, not what I want. The other one's come back on itself, hence why I didn't hook that fish. But we will just plug away for, let's say, an hour on the maggot and see what happens. I'm not going to spray too much maggot because I really don't want to draw in too many small fish. I'm just going to fish over the ground bait at the moment and see what happens. Probably give it 20 minutes doing this, and then I'll go and start spraying maggots if I think I need to liven things up. So the maggot's not getting absolutely hammered. That is a tench bubbling right on my float, which is good news that I'm not getting instantly hammered by small fish. I've just got a number 8 just so it breaks the surface tension and gets that bait falling through the water. I remember years and years ago doing this, and I had 22 2-pound rudd. It was just one of those mad days when the big rudd were in casting distance of a float. I was in the right place at the right time. I think my dad came back the next day and had 11. It was just unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, I fished this thousands and thousands of times over the years, and I only experienced one day like that. Usually if you want the big rudd here, you've got to fish well into darkness. In fact, you need all the light out of the sky, because that will give you a bit of respite from the small fish. They seem to go off, I would think. At the moment it's getting dark at what, 10 o'clock? So getting bites but can't hit them. Your catch time for those big rudd in the summer is going to be midnight to sort of 11 o'clock till 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And just fishing double red maggot, getting some bites, missing a few. Fishing like this, trust your tackle, nice and balanced, and you've got to hit those bites fast and hard. Pick up that line, set the hook if you can, which is not what I'm doing at the moment, but we'll just feel our way into the session. Okay, well, I've been fishing probably about an hour now, and as expected, the maggot line, as soon as I started spraying maggots, it was a fish a chuck, but they were sort of really small, so I'm not even going to change or try the worm because it's just going to be a non-starter. So I've now gone on to sweet corn, and I've slowed the bites down, but when I get a fish, it's a better fish. I've not had a tench yet, and I'm not really expecting that will just be a bonus today, but I'm still on a size 16 hook, and just a piece of corn, catapulting a few bits of corn out every now and again, and I'm getting a few better rudd. They're still not massive, but as you can see, even on sweet corn, the bites are thick and fast, and I'm now beginning to get kind of like swing a rudd, which are really good for building a weight. You know, if I could get a double figured bag of those in the morning, I'd be more than happy, which is, on the cards at the moment. So just a small bit of corn. I haven't gone on to a bigger hook, no need at the moment. Feathering it out again just to reduce the tangles. I've left a little gap between the split shot under the float. It just allows the float to come up and cock a bit better. Another thing I forgot to tell you, when you plumb it up, obviously, and you get your depth, what I do is I place a hook on the keeper ring, or if you haven't got a keeper ring, the first eye on the rod, and then I look at where the locking shot is under the float in relation to the eyes up the rod. In this case, it's about an inch short of the fourth eye, and it's just a reference mark, because unfortunately nowadays split shot, or to be perfectly honest, I call it something different starting with S, but it's not split, moves or comes off, and when you're fishing like this it can be really annoying. And again, I think that split shot has moved on there. As soon as you start catching sort of fish like this, I mean, you've got to admit, I mean, these fish are really, really fat, but my favourite fish are rudd. They really, really do want it. God, blimey. Size 16 hook and a big lump of corn, and they are really, really hammering it. Quite often the float's almost not showing, it's gone that quick. And you see the line tightening the end of the rod. Looks like it's going to be corn for the rest of the day. Okay, seems my float has just cracked and started taking on water. Seems probably a good time just to go through the tackle I'm using. I'm using a 13-foot carbon active sentient super float rod. Beautiful rod again, an old rod, but they're as good as you can get, I would say. Not the 15-foot, because when you're fishing at the distance I am, casting, holding the rod and striking fast and hard, the 15 can be a bit clumsome. So 13-foot rod ideal for the job. Today I've got a small Shimano match. Again, when I'm fishing this sort of water, I find with the Dawa reel, sometimes the line gets blown behind the spool and can be a bit frustrating. So when you're out on the water and you've got a bit of wind, I go for the Shimano, loaded right up to the brim. This is the Browning low diameter Black Magic. It's about 5.5 pound line. And then just coming down, I'm using one of the Drennan high glow Peacock 3 gram floats. As I said, one cracked earlier, which was a bit unfortunate, but you can just pull this off, push another one in. I'm locking the float with 2 shots, and that will shot my float right down. And as I said, I've just changed this float, but what I'm doing is blacking the tip out because there's a lot of kind of light coloured reflection off the sky, so sometimes just having a marker pen to black that down is great. And when you're waggler fishing, whether you're fishing the mag and wag, fishing on the drop, it's all about all your locking shot and your bulk shot is all around your float, and all I've got down to the hook is a small number 8 just to break that surface tension and get the bait slowly going through the water, right to intercept that bait on the drop. So you need to fish on the drop for them. As I said, the main line's 5.5 and I've got a 3.5 hook length. I've always been told from my father, you know, the main line should be more than your hook length, just for safety. You get a snag, unfortunately you lose a fish. It's not towing loads of line and a float around, you know, or you can just pull for that break, put a new hook length on, down to super specialist, size 16 micro barbed hook, and that is it. Pretty simple, pretty basic. It's all about feeding, casting, active. You know, I'm building up a nice net of rudd now. I've gone on the corn. There's a few other pieces of kit you need when you're fishing somewhere like Frensham. Obviously you need your chest waders because it's easier to stand out in the water. You need long bank sticks, and I've got a bait waiter out there which carries all my terminal kit and my bait, just makes fishing nice and easy. And I've got a catapult, I'll quickly show you that later, a new one that Steve from Apollo gave me and said it is the DB's. Give it a go, and it's working perfectly today. And the great thing is it floats, so if I drop that in the water, I ain't gonna lose it like I've lost loads in the past. So that's your terminal tackle, nice and simple, really enjoyable fishing. It's going back to what I did as a nipper, fishing corn on the float. Not a lot has changed, you know. There we used to use the Normark Titan match rod, the old Mitchell matches. The floats were pretty the same, just the crystal, Drennan crystal Wagglers. So it's just a little bit more high tech now, and just really, really enjoyable fishing. It's not often I get out and do some float fishing, but this year I've decided to do a little bit more and to help you, you know, just go through the basics so you can get out on the bank and really enjoy fishing, and the float fishing like I've done for years and years. Okay. Up to you on this one, but I shan't be buying any of these floats ever again, because that one's just broke again in a different place. Just quickly run through the bait and the feeding. Obviously when I got here I put some ground bait out. That was really just to get it down on the deck and to hopefully entice a few tench into the swim. I have had some bubbling and I am surprised I haven't actually hooked one. I've been fishing about 2.5 hours. Started on the maggot, spraying maggots, and I just got bitted out. I bought some worms but I didn't even get them out because that would be a non-starter. So literally had a can of corn, that's what I've been using now. I have been feeding maggot just to get some small fish and hopefully use the corn just to pick out the better fish that seem to be working. Normally if I was using corn I'd be feeding corn and fishing maggot. I'd be feeding maggot, but you know, there are the odd circumstance that where you've got lots of small fish and the odd better fish where you can fish 2 different baits, one feeding, one on the hook. So yeah, little and often is the key. If I was fishing just all out for rudd on the drop, which I am sort of today, it's literally feed, then cast, feed, then cast. It's a bit like the pellet waggler, trying to intercept those fish as the bait drops, because rudd have got a, you know, an underslung mouth, and that is what it's designed to do. Pick up bait off the surface, or as it falls through the water, they're not the best at taking bait off the bottom. So a good catapult. This one I was given, it's a matrix, it's new on the market. The lovely thing about here, I think it floats. Yes, it does. They say it's non-twist. Time will tell on that one. Yeah, it's just got a nice comfortable handle. Another good thing is the pouch there, when you put some bait in, it doesn't collapse like a lot of catapults. So you get a nice even spread of bait, and the elastic, although it's thin, it does give you plenty of distance. So I'm going to see if that will beat the old Drennan. I've got two of these, the Drennan catapults, the best catapult in the world by far. I've used loads of other mates and they've all been chucked in the bin after a few sessions. So let's hope Steve is right at Apollo and this matrix catapult does a business. And as I said, just a little bit of bait, a little and often. I mean, that is miles further than what I can cast. So get some bait going out, keep it going in, not like that. Little and often. Keep casting and those fish will come. Well, today was never about catching specimens. Just came back to Frensham, a venue that I love, beautiful scenery, really idyllic. Conditions not brilliant, the wind's got up now. Just went back to in times when we used to fish the wag and mag, although today it's been the wag and corn because, as I expected, the lake's got loads and loads of small silvers in it, all rudd. I was hoping for the odd bonus fish, which is what really let the day down. Really enjoyable day, but a couple of bonus tench or perch would have been good. But I'm going home happy, got loads and loads of rudd, nothing massive, lots of different year classes as you can see, absolutely mint fish. And I'm guessing there's about 18 pound of rudd. Every fish is a rudd, no perch, no tench. Just loads and loads of absolutely pristine rudd. Cracking days fishing on the wag. Something I don't do enough or give myself enough time to. Hopefully we'll do another float fishing one, maybe on the Kennet and Avon for some perch with some chopworm later in the year. I will be doing the percentage game just to give you a few tips on increasing your catch rate, not only on the wag today, but also on the video I did with the tench at the estate lake. So there you have it. Cracking bag of rudd. For me, it don't get much better than that. Let's get them back.